this video, we will start with our Flutter frontend. Till the end of the video, we will have created the home view to our application that you can see on the screen right now. If you don't want to type the code we are writing in the videos, you can just copy it from the GitHub repository. You find a link to it in the description. But I would recommend to watch the videos as we will build the code in a logical order to make it more understandable how things work. The template we use to design the frontend is our AdobeXD file. I won't get into working with AdobeXD in this tutorial, but if you're interested in it, just put it in the comments. For now, we just use the finished design and we'll have the AdobeXD file always next to us when building the front end with Flutter. Let's get into coding. For that, start VS Code by clicking on the workspace we created in the front end folder. At first, start a debugger so we can see the changes we make in the code immediately in the browser window. For that, open the main.dart file and go to the debugger icon in VS Code. Click on Run and Debug, wait until the browser opens and you will see the sample application. This will take a bit when it's the first start of the debugger in the session. Next, remove most parts of the sample code from the main.dart file. Only this is what we want to keep. To make the program more structured, we put every view of this application in a single file. For the home view, we create a homepage.dart file. Right click on the lib folder and make select new file. Put in the name homepage.dart. Create a stateful widget in this file. In Flutter, everything is built out of widgets. They are like bricks that build your UI. You will get used to that fast till the end of this video. In this case, we build a widget for the whole home view now. This widget will contain further widgets like text and button elements. Creating a stateful widget is as easy as typing STF and then click enter on the selection. Flutter stateful widget. Now enter the name homepage for the widget. Import the material library. This is one of less things that Flutter doesn't do automatically all the time. Just copy it from the main.dart file. As a note, depending on the Flutter version you're using, you may have to remove the question mark after key. That has something to do with null safety, but that's another topic. To call our home view in the main program, we go to main.dart and replace the My Homepage from the default app with our new homepage widget. Use the autofiller so it automatically creates the import for our homepage widget. To start an approach of making the app a bit responsive, we put in these two lines of code. The first one saves the screen size in a variable to access it later with less code. The second sets a variable to true every time the screen gets smaller than a special width. With that, we can easily switch between a mobile and a desktop view. To define the threshold for the width, we create the global variables.dart file. We will also use it to put in all global variables that we will need on the way. Insert the variable global mobile threshold and set it to 700. Then go back to homepage.dart and use the autofiller to create the import statement. Let's start with the main layout for this view. All the elements are built up in a column, so we will use a column widget as top level layout in this view. Remove the container and type column, then use the autofill. Then write children to access this parameter. With Ctrl S, you can save the file and also run the autoformatter and the Flutter Hot Reload. Hot Reload refreshes the output view in the debugger browser window. The first child of the column will be a row for the login text and a profile image. So put in row inside the children list of the column. In the row's children, put in a text widget and give it text. Then put in a container widget. We use the container as placeholder for the profile image. Give it a width and height of 50 and a color green accent. To round the border of the container, we use the decoration parameter. Put in box decoration, border radius circular, and then 25 as value for the radius. When you hot reload it now, then you will get an error. That's caused by the color parameter we set earlier. The box decoration has its own color parameter that we have to use instead. So just move the color parameter into the box decoration. To make the text look nicer, by default, we wrap the homepage widget inside of a material widget. This widget gives default styles, for example for text fonts or colors. We need to be able to run a function when clicking on the login text or the profile image. So we add a click event by wrapping the row widget with a text button widget. The text button has an onPressed function as parameter. This function gets triggered when the button is pressed. We put no code in it for now, as we care about the functions in a later step. To shift the elements to the right in the row, we set the main axis alignment parameter to end. And to add some spacings to the row layout, we add the sized box widgets and give them a width. To remove the debug banner so we can see the corner here, just add a parameter, debug show checked mode banner, and set it to false. The next widget will be the world ranking text. Just add a text widget like we did before and give it a text. This time we style it a bit more. To give it an individual color, we create a global color variable in the global variables.dart file. We call it global color 1 and give it the RGB values we take out of the AdobeXD file. To use the color class, we import materials.dart. Then we replace the color with our just defined color. Under this text we have more texts. Because we style the text differently from each other, we put two text widgets in a row. We set a main and cross axis alignment for this row both to center. The next widget will be this button. As we have buttons with a similar style on more than one place in our application, we will create an own widget for that button. For that, create a new folder and call it own widgets. Inside of this folder, put a new file name ownButton1.dart. The own widgets folder is an accessory, but I just use it to sort my stuff. To create the button, we first import the material.dart and then create a stateful widget, which we call ownButton1. When we go back to the homepage widget, we can already use our button. Make sure to use autofill so the import gets created. For now, we won't see nothing, as our button is still an empty widget. Let's fill it with live. Remove the const comment and set up the interface for this widget. Declare the variables and put them in the constructor. The curly brackets mean that the parameters are named and optional by default. We also give them default values so the user doesn't have to when using the widget. To set the onPressed function as a must parameter, we put the add required in front of it. Now just a bit formatting and the interface is done. The next step is to replace the empty container with an elevated button widget. Then we set the onPressed function and give it the widget's onPressed function from our interface. Next, we put a container in the child of our button and give it the parameters from our interface. We set the alignment to center. For the child, we use this double question mark notation. That means if widget.child has a null value, the code at the right side of the question mark will be taken. This happens when the widget is called, but the optional child parameter isn't set. In case there's no child given to the widget, we use a text widget and fill it partly with parameters from the interface. Let's style the button to make it look like our template. Let's go back to our home view and give the button an onPressed function and the text parameter play. We need another similar button below this one, so we copy the code and adjust the parameters. The bottom line will start with a row again. The gear wheel will be an image that we have to add to our assets. For that we create this folder path, assets, images, and we copy the gear image into the images folder. The image can be found in the GitHub repository. To tell Flutter that there is a folder which content is needed in our code, we have to edit the pubspec YAML file. Open it and uncomment assets, then add a path to the images folder below. Save it and go back to the homepage widget. Add the image.asset widget and enter the local path to the image. In my case, I have to replace the backslashes with forward slashes. Add width and height and save. After the hot reload, you will get an error message saying your image can't be found. The reason for that is that a hot reload doesn't load new assets. So we have to close the debug browser and open a new debug session. And there you can see the image now. To finish this row, we add the settings text. Then we set the main axis alignment and the main axis size of the row to start and min. To adjust the positions the elements have in the column layout, it is a very convenient way for me to use sized boxes. They can either be given a certain height or be wrapped in an expanded widget. Let's add a sized box with height 5 to the bottom of the column. Then put an expanded sized box above the two buttons in the middle and a sized box with height 15 between the buttons. Finally, put another expanded sized box above the world rank text. Let's fix some things that we will need later. First, we wrap the bottom row in a text button to get a click event with the onPressed functions. Second, I want to add something that's not in template, but I thought it is nice during the development of this app. It will be an how to play button on the opposite side of the settings button. For that, we wrap the text button in a row and add another text button as a child. This button has a row as children with two children. One is a text widget with the text how to play, and the other one is an icon widget. We give it the info icon and set a color to our global color 1 and a size to 42. For the correct layout, we add an expanded sized box between the two buttons and two sized boxes with the width of 5 at both ends of the row. Next time we will build a settings page with new widgets like the checkbox or the drop down button. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you next time.